folks, Morphy's Games of Chess continues. We're in section 3 of the book, the match versus the Reverend John Owen. On the conclusion of his match with Lowenthal, Morphy engaged in another with a player who preferred to appear under the alias of Alter, but who was, as a matter of fact, the Reverend John Owen, a member of the St. George's Chess Club and one of the strongest London amateurs. Owen in the following month took third prize in the British Chess Association tournament at Birmingham, and in the London tournament of 1862 he again took third prize, coming after Anderson and Lewis Paulson, and above Steinitz, Barnes, Lowenthal, Blackburn, and others. Some idea of his chess ability may be gathered from this. But yet here we are, folks. If you notice, Black doesn't have an F-pawn. It's because Morphy's going to play a match versus Owen, giving Owen pawn and move. He's giving him odds of pawn and move for the whole match. All right, so that's why the F-pawn is gone. All right, so let's get into this. This is the first match game number 34 in the book, held in London, August 1858. Okay, Owen starts off with E4. Morphy answers D6, D4 by Owen, and we got Morphy with the knight coming out. I guess D6 prevents this, right, getting booted. But Owen plays the bishop to C4. Good. Now that the now with the F pawn, remember, folks, with the F pawn, look at this diagonal that Owen is playing on. Good scope for his king bishop. Being that this pawn is missing, you know, Black's going to try to castle this way. It's going to be kind of dangerous, right? Could be dangerous. All right, so anyway, we got a lot of game to play. Morphy brings out the knight to C6. Almost tempting Owen to boot him, you know, to push D5, but then the knight could swing here, getting a tempo on the bishop. Bishop moves back, and now look what you did. You actually blocked him in, folks. The D5 pawn, just like I said, he played bishop C4 for this nice diagonal. But now that pawn on D5 blocks his scope, right? So, all right, Owen doesn't push the D pawn. I just want to make note of that. But he brings his knight out, develops the piece. And here's Morphy playing E6, getting ready to push D5. E6 supports the D pawn. Okay, so now we got the other knight coming out for Owen. And sure enough, here it is, D5. Okay, Owen retreats the bishop. Okay, and there's something here I want to point out. Morphy ends up developing his other piece, another minor piece, bishop to B4, pinning the knight, right? But what if he was to take here, folks? All right, now White would take with the knight. You don't want to offer your opponent to grab the bishop pair. See this? This would give Black the bishop pair, which can be considered a slight advantage to play for. The two bishops could be utilized down the road in the middle game, in the end game. Could be a slight advantage, okay? So if you don't want to ever just give your opponent the bishop pair for no reason whatsoever, no compensation. Or you always want to try to get something. Maybe one of your knights gets a strong post or whatever, right? A nice outpost. You can't just give up something for nothing. So White would take back with this knight. Okay, and now the point I bring this up is, look at what Black did by taking. Again, by taking on E4, he saddles himself with a weak E6 pawn, an isolated pawn, folks. No F pawn, no D pawn that could help this guy. We've talked about it in other games. That would be a no-no. Especially with an open E file, all that White has to do is castle, bring his rook to E1, right? Fire down that open file, and this guy's got a lot of problems, because if you're saddled with something like this, you'd want to try to trade the weak pawn, the weakness, for maybe this pawn is a strong pawn for White. You want to trade your weakness for one of White's strengths, right? But you can't really do that because White controls E5. And Black may never be able to get grips of that square to be able to push that E-pawn. For instance, I don't know the tactics. I didn't really go into it, but just for argument's sake, like this is positional chess. You bring your or you could easy plan for white. Just gang up on this pawn, keep him back, control the e5 square, bishop to f4, right? You're going to castle. You're going to bring your rook here. You're going to fire down this open file. Maybe you could win this pawn. And if anything else, too, you got this nice outpost. You got a nice outpost over here for your piece. E5, there's no pawn that can boot you out, right? So these are the little positional pointers I want to bring up. Okay, so that's just a little positional thing. Now look at the difference. Look at the difference of this now. Like I said, after Owen brings the bishop back, Morphy doesn't take, right? He knows better. He brings the bishop to b4. Now let's just say, okay, let's just say at this point Owen was to trade on d5. Now you see the difference in pawn structure, folks? Now Black doesn't have a weak pawn on an open file. It's not isolated, right? We got a C pawn that could back up that d5 pawn if need be, right? So there you go. You see the difference? They both have a pawn on the fourth rank, on their fourth rank. So Black is pretty much like a mirror image at this point. He's got positional influence with the pawn, right? You got White's D pawn controls E5, Black's D pawn controls E4. See? So I mean, this is and here's the major point. I almost forgot. In this position, right? In this position, that weak pawn there also cramps this light square bishop. If he can never push it and get rid of it, he's blocking in this guy. He can never get out. Key point. I almost forgot that. Now look at the difference. Look. If he trades here, now you got scope for your guy. Look at this. You got scope, folks. He could come out. White. You have White guessing. Is he coming here? Is he coming there? Maybe he's going to pin him. You know what I mean? So you got options, see? All right, so there's a couple of positional points I'd like to share with you on this game, even though this never happened, okay? So after Morphy's bishop b4, pinning the c3 knight, get a load of this Owen with bishop g5, pinning Morphy's knight on f6, okay? Now, what you got to always watch, too, when you got a piece pinned, Morphy's is in a dangerous situation because Owen's able to push this. Let me just throw a useless move over here. He's able to put pressure on that pinned piece with a pawn. Whenever your pieces are pinned, always look out for pawns coming up and attacking the pinned piece. See, this guy, you would win that knight now, because if you move the knight, of course, you see the whole concept of the pin, right? You lose your queen. Okay, so in this case, you'd lose your knight. That pawn puts pressure on it. Forget it. He's going to win it. Okay, so let me take back this silly move, a6. I was showing you the threat. See, Morphy doesn't have a pawn push to threaten the white knight on c3, right? Okay, so what does Morphy do here? Well, he beats Owen to the punch. He puts pressure on the bishop with his pawn push of h6. See that? And look at this. Here comes Owen going in for it anyway. e5, hitting that pin knight. Okay. So watch this now. Morphy takes the bishop. Oh, and one other thing. This is what the old masters give. A little side note. Instead of the pawn push, okay, the old masters say that taking the knight with the bishop was the better move, because this move of e5, it says it opens up an important file for black, which is going to be the H file, who is in no way inconvenienced by having to move the king. Inferior to bishop takes knight, as it opens up an important file for black, who is in no way inconvenienced by having to move his king. All right, we're going to show you how this plays out. I'll point it out what they mean. We got Morphy taking the bishop, and here Owen doesn't take the knight yet. He throws the in-between move. Bishop to g5 check. Okay, so now the inconvenience of black, he can't castle, right? But it says it's not really a problem, okay? And to make up for it, he actually gets this open. Let me see. Wait, he takes this pawn. Black gets this open H file. See that? That's the open file. That's black. Morphy's going to utilize this open H file. You'll see down the road as the game continues. Okay, so like I said, Owen played knight takes the G pawn, right? G5. And here, white can't retreat this knight, folks. He can't retreat the knight yet. What happens if he does? Do you see the move? Here it is. Look at the engine coming right in. We'll throw it in. Put that engine on. Oh wait, he can't go for that, right? They're gonna. Oh well, wow. You block. Okay. Even if you throw your guy here, I mean, where can the knight even go? Let's say the knight goes here, right? If you go there, look, you get the queen check. Okay. This allows the knight fork of king and queen. All right. Okay. I'm going to tell you, when it's bad, it goes from bad to worse, folks. Look, here's what I'm trying to point out. If the knight goes here, let's say, if you move that knight because you don't want to lose it, well, then the queen comes in with a deadly check on F3. And the best move, all that black can do is move his knight back. Because if he moves his king here, only move going to the right, you get mated, right? And if he goes here, obviously, the only move to the left, you get mated. See this? So there you go, right? So the black knight cannot move. That's the point I'm trying to bring up. So Owen doesn't have to take the knight yet. Even though there's no pin on it from a bishop on G5, it's still, in a sense, tactically pinned. Don't want to get mated. Okay, so Morphy sees this. He develops, like Shredder's saying, he brings his rook up. Okay, brings his rook up to H6, attacking the bishop. And Owen does like Shredder, brings the bishop back to D3. But, important side note, once again by the old masters. Here we got an interesting move, right? It says, maybe some of you are looking at the knight fork. Knight going after queen and rook, right? So, this is the line they give. Queen moves. Knight takes rook. Queen takes bishop. Okay, and then we got, finally, white takes his knight. And he takes with the queen here. He takes with the queen. We got pawn takes pawn check. And then they give queen takes pawn. And I think, I'll show you why. Because after this, they conclude with the note saying, and white must lose his queen pawn. The D4 pawn now, the knight on C6 and the queen attack it. And there's no way for white to save it. Which is a key central pawn too, right? And at this point, black ends up, let's put Shredder on. Let's see where it goes, right? The queen comes up, gives the check. I don't know if going up to E7 is good. There might be sacrifices on D5 with the knight. Yeah, there you go. You move over to G8. For instance, if you go here, okay, he can castle. Now the pawn is hanging, see? He's got the queen and knight on it. All right, so if the king, after the queen check on F3, if he moves to E7, there might be, all right, they're saying I could take this. Shredder says I could take it. You're hitting the white queen. All right, so if he moves here, you just trade, right? I thought so. You just trade the queens while you... And what ends up happening is, all right, you got to defend your knight. Okay, you got to defend your knight. And what ends up happening, you got... okay, that makes sense. He's pinning the bishop so you can't develop your pieces. I mean, what it is here you got a tough game. It's interesting. You got black has the two bishops for a rook, which usually is better. Okay, the two bishops is better than a rook, but you have 5 pawns to 6, and white has passed pawns on the G file there. So But yet, black has central control. I don't know. It could go anyway. Who knows? Don't leave this to me. I have no idea. I mean, you want to maybe, oh, if you try something like this, to then play bishop b7, you're going to trap your dark square bishop, right? Can he? I guess he'll just trade it for the knight at that stage. Okay, because he's got nowhere to go, right? Oh, then again, the c pawn protects him, right? He can never push it. But I mean, I don't know. This is some game. You got a lot going on. Very interesting. Maybe this isn't the best move though. They're saying b5. They're saying king up. I don't know. Who knows? All right, he likes my move, actually. There you go. So this could be an interesting game. He's going to swing that other rook down the h-file. Then you're going to... Oh, so now if you play this, right, he throws the check in. He throws the check and he wins your light square bishop. So that's not as easy. Not that easy here. Let's think about this. If he threw the queen over there, then you're going to open his h-file. But if you move the queen, then knight on d4 could be hanging, right? So by taking, is that the best move? I say maybe bring the bit. You can't. Gee, I tell you, this is tough. Right, if you protect them, comes down here and he stops it. Now it's saying b5. All right, take that guy. All right, take him. He goes there. You attack c3. All right. Oh, I know what he's going to do. He's going to bring the knight to c7. There you go. You protect your rook that way. All right. All right, you come. I don't know. This guy's coming here. There you go. Now he checks. You come up. Oh, he's... Oh, boy. Now you get a little... Black's a little tied up, you see? So... And the bishop pair's gone, but he's got the two pieces for the rook now. The knight and bishop for the rook. But, you know, I don't know. That's a tough one. Look at the evaluation right here, folks, down there. Look, 0.06. I mean, that's some game. I love these different piece configurations. All right. Interesting there. A whole different game. But one other point I want to mention here, after this, right? If he checks, if he takes, not with the queen, we looked at with the queen. If he takes here, right? Now the black queen's not on d4, right? So the pawn's not hanging anymore. You see the difference? So he could, all right, I guess he wants to bring his queen out. He wants to be able to get his light square bishop. I guess you gotta get when the getting's good. You gotta push e5 now or never, right? Get rid of that pawn. And they're probably better moves, folks. We're making these fast, right? All right, he takes there. Is he gonna lose the d pawn? I guess so. Right? So who knows? This is probably better. That's a whole other game. Taken down there. All right. So anyway. I think it'd be better to get your bishop, the light square, get your queen side out there. You get the light square bishop and the... All right, so anyway, get your queen rook. I'm thinking this, I don't know, attack the piece. All right, you bring your rook out into the game. You're threatening the discovery. Right, he's going to castle short. Or he's just going to move over. Oh, what happens, folks, if he castles, huh? What happens? Checkmate. Thank you. Game over, right? Not bad. Not bad. All right, he'd have to go there. So now his rooks can't get linked up. So black might be able to whip up something here with the awkward position of the white king. Matter of fact, what if he... I see Shredder's not going for it, but what if he does? What's this? What's this? Oh, he could retreat to F3. Okay. I thought you'd win the rook. All right. I'm looking at it quick. That's why, if you notice, look, that's why he just had that move. He's trying to build on that tactic. See, he's trying to take away F3, right? He's building up on it. He's preventing, again, he's preventing this, right? All right, he goes right in for the pin, but I guess this works too, right? If he takes, you go here. And then where can he go, folks? What's he going to do, right? He moves, he loses that rook. Look at this. Then you're going to take, oh my God, forget it. Forget it, all over the place you're losing. I was thinking this, simply just trade down, see? I was just going that way. All right, however you want to do it. Like I said, when it gets bad, it goes from bad to worse, right? All right, there you go. He can't even take this guy, because then you lose the rook. All right, you lose everything. All right, so again, this is not forced by black, but just some ideas. But I like this. I like this. Now the white king, I guess that's the best. Unless Shredder, you know, you let Shredder let the engine go. There could be better moves on both sides. Don't get me wrong. All right, so anyway, that's just a little different feel, right? Different line, because the king takes instead. The king takes on this one. Oh, there you go. You get the queen check over here. Already trades. There you go. You get the, look, now your castle, now D4 is protected again. All right, so black has the two bishops for a rook, right? Little different now. The queens are off the board, right? So in the other line with the queens on the board, and you had the king on F1, and the rooks couldn't get linked. See the difference? It was a little better for black. He had some initiative, he had the attack, but here it slows down with the queens off the board. So at this point, the evaluation, look at that. After this, take a pawn over here. Look, evaluation, totally equal on 0.00. The engine doesn't know what to really make of it. I guess it's even. All right, so anyway, there you go. Now, what ends up happening? That's all based on this, folks. How did we get there again? The knight fork on F7, right? Queen here, he takes the rook, you take the bishop. So now at this point, you got the two bishops for that rook, right? They take, the knights come off, the queen takes here, and they just say, this is where the old masters leave it, folks, because I was adding with the engine, I was adding, going a little deeper, you know, to give some more understanding of it. But here it just says, and white must lose his queen pawn, the D pawn on D4, right? And white must lose his D4 pawn. Okay, that's where they leave it, so they look at it, it's better for black. If after this check, right, you swing the queen this way, already defends it, you can win it. Now he's threatening the check down here, huh? This is it. You move the king over. Why not develop this guy? Okay, here come the sacks. Sacks there. Oh, because if he... well, let's see. All right, he's going to win either the knight or the bishop. Look, takes there, he takes with check. If you go here, he takes the bishop, right? Or he goes for the... oh, he forks the... he wins the b-pawn fork and this guy now. See that? I thought he would take here. All right. If he takes, when he takes here, if you block this way, well, he grabs the knight. Okay. And there you go. How does it measure up? Two bishops for a rook, and in the getting closer to the end game, you got white's got 3 extra pawns though, which I could see why they give the evaluation now over here. It's almost +1. I mean, those 3 pawns, folks, they're all passed. You got to give it to white, I think, here. That could be dangerous. All right, so anyway. So, if he goes here, he could take here on this, right? But he goes for this instead, wins another pawn. Now he's forking the bishop and the rook. All right, rook over here. He takes this one. What about a queen check first on g5? All right, you take here, whatever, right? He goes this, king over. All right, he's going for material now. Look at this. Go grabbing. I mean, heck, if black doesn't get a checkmate, he's doomed. He has no pawns. He has a c pawn left. So wait a minute. He's hitting that rook. All right, he takes the g2 pawn. Folks, I'm getting sucked into this one. Getting sucked right in. You'd love to throw a knight here, right? Piling up on c2. You'd love to throw the bishop, right? Piling up on c2 or over here if you can. But he's on that rook. He's on the rook with the queen. See that? All right, so he takes here. All right, now white takes away the check of the queen on g5. All right. Look at this. Look at the. Oh man, I'm looking at this, right? Going after c, but he's got the queen check on e4. See? He forks it. He forks the queen. The queen check forks the king and the bishop. What is black threatening? No, look at this. He's threatening, a rook. And I'll just do a silly move. He's threatening rook takes, king over, checkmate, right? See this? So imagine if he played this by mistake, folks. Imagine if he played this. Now you got mate over here like that. Folks, the patterns, the rook on g2, the rook on g2 takes away the d2 escape square for the white king, right? The white king is doomed, checkmated. All right. Well, I mean, this is, who knows? Who knows what goes on? That's a mistake, though, because he's got the check, right? So, I don't know. At this point, where can you go? Maybe you push c5 to anchor in your knight, right? Like if you push this, you can try to throw your knight on d4. Oh, he goes in for this. He takes this. Oh, he's gonna win. He's gonna divert. He's gonna divert my queen. I didn't see it. All right, look. Diverts my queen. Now he gets the. All right, he goes. I thought he would go here, and he forks. If he goes here, he could bring it back. My mistake. All right, see the tactics, folks? He checks from there. And now I'm forced. Now I'm forced to the G file. Oh, and he takes with check, adding insult to injury. All right, black's doomed at this point. Okay. So going all the way back, this would be terrible. You'd have potential, but you're moved behind. You just don't have enough. Those tactics are sitting there, but they're just, you're one move behind, you can't really, your black knight can't get on a nice post. He can't post up protected by a pawn. And the bishop is he's just in an awkward position, blocked by his, right here, look. After this, see, your bishop he can't get in the game either, your light square bishop. So, okay, so he's busted at this. Black's busted. I mean, the end game, all white has to really do after this, just trade those queens, and, I mean, he should have an easy end game. Yeah, this is no good. Let's see. The c5 pawn can't be pushed, so he's going to try to save the bishop. Maybe repost him somewhere. All right, he puts him back here. This guy comes up. They trade. All right, just get the queens off. All right. So you get the queens off. Now it's the two minor pieces versus the rook. But the rook's got 3 extra pawns. Forget it. Forget it. Black is busted here. He's busted. No way. goes there, right? You can't. Doesn't matter if you're forking this and this. He gets the check, folks. See, and you win the C pawn. Now he's got nothing. He's even after the bishop. Oh, forget about it. Oh, all right, forget about it. Forget about it. I'm getting sucked in. I love this game too much. I'm starting to play it. What were we talking about again? Oh yeah, this is Morphy, right? Morphy's games of chess. All right. So anyway, there you go. They'll go a little deeper for you. You know. That's interesting because I'll tell you, one of the moves when I was going over this, instead of the bishop, you know the queen comes here because she wants to come down on e8 and give a check, right? So, all right, they're saying this, take, you bust those pawns up, and then you move the knight over here to help out, I guess, defend. But now the queen gives a check. And that would tie up your queen side, see? The queen would pin that bishop so he can't get out, else you drop your rook on a8. All right, so he's going to offer the... Look at this. What is he going to keep checking him? Look at this. Relentless. All right, he comes up. And there you go. Now the rook's going to swing over. This could get dangerous. Again, he can't play his queen side pieces out. So... White's going to whip up. I think White's going to grab the initiative. He's got it already, right? There you go. You pin the knight. Now the knight's out of the game. You're offering a queen exchange. But, of course, he doesn't want to take it. There he goes. He keeps it. Now he's still got... Okay, he's going to try. He's going to try to get the bishop to b7. Can he do it, folks? Oh, now if he goes here, he drops the e6 pawn, and now both rooks are in the game, right? Okay, he has time. He has time. Can black get out? Oh, I mean, look at the engine. I'm just looking at it now, folks. Look at this now. Yeah, he's going to tie him up. There he comes. Look at the advantage. Look at the advantage for White over here. Almost +5. All right, enough. What am I doing? All right, no good. No good. So, the old masters give this, okay? They leave it right here. Look, they leave it right here. Right here. Let's make sure. They go, queen takes, and again, I repeat, and White must lose his queen pawn, the d4 pawn. All right? Without going into any of this stuff. All right, so like the game of chess, right? You can go down all different avenues. Let's go back. We'll be here forever, right? Let's go back to the Morphy game. We'll exhaust ourselves, right? Okay, so all this stems from this move, folks, right here. The old masters brought it up, knight to f7. Okay. Very interesting. But anyway, what is after Morphy's rook up? Owen brings the bishop back to d3. Okay. So now we have king over because look, again, this move, if you move the knight, folks, all right, the queen again coming in, right, with the f3 check. Now, if he goes this way, right, if he goes either square, he gets mated on f7, right? Queen f7 mate. All right, now if he goes this way, this is where it's interesting. The queen could come and give the check, and he's got h8 now because the rook came up, right? He lifted the rook to h6. So now he's got this square, so it's not mate like in the other variation, but very, very interesting here. Now, you would say, look, if the knight takes the pawn, right, okay, now, there's two threats, folks. Two threats. Queen takes g7 mate, and the black queen is hanging, right? The knight's attacking the queen. So if black goes to try to defend both threats, well, then you could just trade. Then you can chop off the c pawn, attacking the rook. Rook moves. Now you chop off the d pawn. Look at this. It's crazy, folks. Look at this now. I mean, now you're eating up the pawns. Now two knights, a bishop, and two rooks for each side. But look at Black's 3 pawns versus White's 8. White hasn't even lost a pawn yet, and he can't even take over here because then his bishop hangs. Right, the bishop hangs on b4. So if he moves the bishop, all right, now he could castle, I guess, right? He doesn't want to take. What happens if he takes on d4, right? You get this, look. You get this setting up a discovered attack. See, well, for one, a discovered attack on the knight. See, the rook unleashed on this knight. See, the rook wants to threaten to take. And then when you move your knight, well, now you're setting up not only a discovered check, a double check, folks, a double check. Look at this. The knight can do the impossible. Knight to f6, checking the king along with the bishop. The light square bishop, there's a double check here, knight and bishop. All right, so the engine says to go here. You take a piece, right? He takes here, you end up winning a piece. Look at this, all right. He wants to take here first. I don't know. Let's just look at this. So he goes there. All right, now you get the fork of rook and bishop. The big deal. The rook moves and can recapture. And there you go. All right, so you got the 2 rooks, but each side has the 2 rooks. But look at the pawns, right? What is it? 6 to 3. All right, no contest. See what could happen to you. So interesting, though, that I bring this up. White would clearly be winning, right? But now I want to show you something. So you would see this and you'd say, well, wait a minute. After this, you might as well give up the exchange, right? Because you're going to drop all those pawns anyway. But do you see what happens, folks? Look at the engine. It doesn't go in with queen takes rook. Why is that? Why is that, folks? Look at this. Can't even compose myself for what's coming. Look at this. If queen takes, do you see the move for black? This is unbelievable, folks. Knight on d7 takes e5. And the white queen is trapped. The white queen is trapped. The knight on e5 controls g6 and f7. No help there. You can't pull back on the light squares because the bishop's aiming at you the whole time, right? So now where can he go? He can't go to f6, can't go to h6 because of the pawn. What about this? He could take that, right? Wrong, because it's pinned. The knight's pinned. There's no help from the knight. Now look at this. I want to show you something. Watch this. You don't even take here because you let white take your knight. I mean, don't get me wrong. This is still winning, right? I mean, come on, folks. Let's get real. I mean, black is still winning this. He's still up, right? He's got the queen for the 2 rooks. I mean, look, I don't know, however you want to slice it. He's basically got, they both have the light square bishop. They both have a rook. And then, you know, black's got the queen for the rook, and he's got a knight. All right, so what do you do here? What do you do? I mean, you could check here, right? And then you could capture. Maybe he goes here, I guess. I don't even know. What does the engine say at this point? I'm curious. He steps over. I mean, forget about it. So anyway, I mean, you know, why do we even have to look? It's minus 9. So black's winning that, right? But watch this. This is even better. Look, if you take here first, don't even let black get your knight. Look at this. You take here first. You chop off the knight with check. Okay? Now you chop off the bishop with check. Right? And there you go. Now you have time to take your piece. Now look at it. Now you got a queen for a rook. You got the other rook for the other white rook, and now you got 2 extra pieces, not just a knight. You got a knight and bishop. All right, white has more pawns. Big deal, right? What has he got? 3. He's got 3 central pawns there. For what? I mean, it's not even close. It's minus. Look at this. It's over here. -11. All right, instead of -9, it's -11. All right. So at this point, after this, he can't even take the rook. He can't do it because a knight takes e5. Devastating. Now look, Shredder says this is the best at this point. All right, he gets 2 knights for it. Big deal. All right, look at that. Now you're going to hit the bishop. You're going to take. He's going to take. You take. All right, he moves over. All right, you protect it off again. Forget about it. Game over. Game over. Right, he castles while he can. All right, and there you go. You develop your queen side. Get them out of there. Get the soldiers out. All right, and there you're up 6. You're up 6 and change. All right, so that's why over here, after the check, knight takes is a mistake. It's a mistake, despite all this other stuff, folks, right? After this, after they trade, and then I went into this. This line was interesting, but it wouldn't even crop up because it would all falter to rook takes, because you're thinking you just won the exchange, but lo and behold, your queen gets trapped. Unbelievable, this game. You gotta always watch these pitfalls. So now after the check, right? There you go. Shredder ends up. The evaluation turns out pretty much like this. The best white can do is pull the queen to f4. The king would go over. And I guess, all right, then you get that. You get something like this. You get the check. I think what's going to happen, the best white could do is the queen check again. But we'd have to sit here and let it evaluate. You give the check, and then he would go over, then you'd pull back. And what ends up happening, it would be a 3 repetition, folks. See this? So that would be a draw. But I guess that's the best. Each side doesn't want to give ground. Now this, I don't know. What? He throws this over here. Look at that, right? Even better, you bring the queen over here. Look at this. You block him out with the pawn. Your rook's still under the gun. So you got to move him, right? Look at this. The pawn is pinned. This is getting crazy. I don't know, folks. Look at this. I think is white going to come out better. They're saying it's even. They're saying it's a draw. Here comes the knight. Going to come to g6, I guess. All right, now the g pawn wants to capture the rook because the pawn's not pinned anymore. And they're saying to come back here. All right, who knows, right? At this point, who knows? Who knows? It's a whole other game. But according to the engine, it's a check move, huh? It's a check move. He wins the exchange. He's going to force the exchange of queens, else he loses the knight. He cements the knight in. All right, we're going to chop that guy off. Right, we chop him off. All right, he's got to run home. Run home to mama. So now what do we have? We got white's got the 2 rooks and a knight. So black's got the knight and light square bishop for a rook. And it's 6 pawns to 7. All right, so it's close. Whole other game, basically. Whole other game. Who knows? The evaluation is close to 0, right? So it's anybody's game. So there you go. It could get wild, you know, but nobody's really got the edge there. After all that, you know. So that's why the engine, if you let it run, I think it finds, there you go, the queen check, pulling back here. See, he has to go back. There, the engine figured it out. See, just go in, just keep going in, and you get the 3 repetition. All right. So anyway, then it decides on that. But, okay, none of this happened, folks. After this, bishop back by Owen. The point being, the knight still can't move. The knight still can't move because of the queen coming in on f3. All right, so not that like anybody wins off of this, but okay. Morphy playing for the win, right? I'm sure he didn't see all that. He just instincts told him this can't really be good. Doesn't look good, you know. So okay. So the knight stays on f6. So what is Morphy do? Well, he moves to one thing here. Let's see. Then the engine, now that it's the engine's given its recommendations, what happens on this? He gives the check all the same. He gives the check. Any difference? Let's see. He's here, right? He goes in that. Can he just take the knight on e4? Win a pawn. Oh, look, here he goes again. Here we go again. All right, he decides to take this one, and he wins that. And it actually gives black is half a pawn. Again, anybody's game. There's no advantage here. It's anybody's game. See that, folks? He takes doubles the pawns, really. Like, does it matter at this point? All right, take him. All right, anybody's game. Whole other thing, right? What do you got? The rook attacking f2. All right, anyway. No different, right? No different. There's no clear win. So Morphy doesn't move the knight. He ends up moving his king over, okay? He feels, get the king, get that potential check, queen check on f3 out of the position here. Now, all right, he takes back. He takes back his sacrificed bishop. Remember, pawn took on g5. So now we got the queen taken. And now the knight goes back to f3. Here comes the pawn push. Releasing the light square bishop, folks. e5. All right, pawn takes. See, now this guy's free to roam. Okay, but you're going to take the pawn first. Knight takes pawn, and now Owen castles. He castles question mark. Here, look at the engine saying take. Let him get the check. All right, king over. And at this point, let's see what happens. Look, if you block with the bishop, right? Oh, look at that. You let I was going to say you take here, right? And you get the check. All right, king's going to go over anyway. So if he blocks with the queen, obviously you grab the rook in the corner, right? But okay, he would move over. But look, you get the pawn push. Remember what I said? When a piece is pinned, if a pawn can be pushed, you win that the pinned piece. What did I just say? If the piece is pinned, you could pile up on it by pushing a pawn, you win the piece. But okay, white would have this. He take here. All right, he didn't win anything. Look at this. Rook over. Attacking in between move, attacking that queen. Now, if the queen was to go here, you get the pawn fork. You're attacking the rook and the queen. Look at this. It's all over, right? It's all over. Okay, you'd win the queen, right? If he castles, you take the queen that's on the board. All right, there you go. Look. So let's see. Obviously, he moves to the light square. Now you're threatening to win. You're threatening to checkmate on e2. Look at this, right? I know what's coming now, folks. If f3, rook to d2, I believe. There you go. Rook to d2, threatening mate, all the same. See that? Queen takes bishop's going to be mate. Only way to stop it, right? Because if he tries to move now, you just take it. There you go, right? Showing the obvious for the beginners. All right, so the queen would have. It's a lost position, folks. Totally busted. All right, rook takes. All right, so what do you do? All right, you even take this. Who cares, right? There you go. Look, you're going for it now, folks. Now you're backing up your queen. Queen takes. Bishop again would be made. He can't defend like that. You got the pawn, right? All over. Game over. Come on, you lose this. Come on, it's all over. All right. Look at this. You got a pawn on the 7th. Forget about it. All right, you got everything. You got everything in that one. All right, so there you go, right? Here I am looking at this. Bishop takes. Meanwhile, you got the pawn. All right. So this would be losing. So that's why he doesn't even want to block. He would just go over here, and you could win the h2 pawn. But anyway, you know. All right. Let's see where that leads. Queen comes up. All right, you protect your center, I guess. Bishop comes up, or he's trying to get a little counterattack on the light squares. All right, is he gonna force a trade? All right, there you go. At this point, we got the two bishops, and the pawns are even. So that's a little better for white than the other position with the queens on the board, right? All right, so anyway, you got the awkward king position there with the queens on the board. The rooks can't link up, you know. Could get scary if black could whip up an attack. All right, so anyway, he doesn't take. You know, Owen doesn't take. Maybe he saw all these problems, you know, and he just said, let me castle, let me get safe, right? So he thinks, right? You're going to castle, you get safe. But look at this, folks. Now look at the outnumbered king side over there. You only got the knight, right? The white knight on f3 to defend. And now look, you got the rook on the open h-file. We said it before. We got the knight on e5. We got the queen. And we got the light square bishop ready to leap into the attack. Sure enough, just like Shredder, here you go. Morphy playing the move. The move, baby. Queen to f4. All right, there is no, after castles, it says there is no saving move. Look at this, wait. He castles, question mark. There is no saving move, but this loses at once. Okay, so here comes the queen, right? Now you got to move. You got, what's being threatened, folks? Well, Owen tries this. He tries h4, trying to stop the influence, because what's being threatened now, let's just play a useless move over here, right? What's being threatened is queen takes on f3. That's a check move, right? And no matter what white does, he takes with the queen, you got mate. Because you just destroyed the knight, the defender of h2, right? He's defending against the queen takes h2 mate. But you destroy him, and whether he takes with the queen, if he takes with the pawn, it's all the same, right? You take on h2 and it's mate. Okay? So that's what's being threatened. So what Owen tries to do, he tries to stop, he plays h4 to try to stop the rook's influence. So now queen takes, you know, this doesn't work, but it works in a different way. Look, knight would take, right? So the knight takes, this is what happened in the game. Owen plays h4, Morphy plays knight takes knight check. Here comes the queen, right? But now, Morphy takes queen, takes pawn on h4, right? And he's threatening mate on again, h2 or h1, either way, right? If he tries to guard against this with his queen on f3, he gets mated here, right? It makes no difference. So Owen tries to check, Morphy blocks it and threatens the queen. So now you got the white queen hanging, and you got mate threat on h1, right, or h2. So I mean, at this point, Owen he packed it in. He knew that his goose was cooked. I mean, at this point, Shredder is trying to fight on, right? All right, he takes it to divert the rook. And now this, okay, so it's just a matter of time. He attacked the queen. Now, you don't want to move the queen off this rank, because if you do, then the bishop comes here and pins. So at least you win the exchange back, you know. So you want to keep that queen over here, right? So, all right, the king wants to come up so that he could push f3. If he pushes f3 now, you got 1, you got 2. Good night, right? So he's trying to maybe come up. I don't know. He's going to try to push f3, I guess. All right, we take here. We could just trade down, really, and white's got all the power here, all the play. You trade. We're going to trade. You're going to threaten a queen check on f3. Already takes there. You get the check in. He goes here. You take. All right. So now, I mean, look at the difference, folks. Black's got a queen for a bishop, right? When it all settles. Okay. So I mean, Black's clearly winning this. Okay. Now there's also another interesting line here. You might be asking yourself, why h4? Why play h4? Why not h3? Right? At least you get. Maybe that works a little better, folks. All the same, you see Shredder here. Let me take this off so you can find the moves. You sack it, right? Okay, now you're threatening again. Knight takes, knight check, and then the queen comes down to h2 mate. So he takes this, okay? Now you throw your check in, right? Knight takes with check. And he'd have to actually delay this. By taking the knight with queen, so you win the queen, right, for a knight. At this point, it's you got the way it works out. You got the two bishops, but you got a queen for a rook, right? The pawns are the same, 5 pawns. You got a queen for a rook. Plus, look, folks, look what's coming. Just to show, you're gonna mate on the light squares over here. Bishop flies into the position. And at that point, you'd have mate on g2, right? Okay. I guess he'd have to try to stop you, right? But anyway, okay. So Black's winning that too. So after this, he takes, right? Knight would take, and he'd have to delay the game by sacking his queen. He tried to delay the inevitable. But he's still busted. Now, if he moves, right, folks? Now you sack the bishop with check. And now when he takes here, right? If he just moves, he's dead. He's a dead duck, right? You go in on h2, supported by the knight, right? That's mate. So he's got to take. Well, now you check. Only square. You check on g4, protecting your knight. King moves over, only square. Checkmate, queen h3, checkmate, game over. Beautiful, right, folks? Beautiful stuff. I mean, that deserves an instant replay. Watch this, going all the way back. You say, why not play h3 instead of h4? Sack, knight check, king up, sack, queen check, check, mate. Oh, that's some attack, folks. This is what you're playing for, folks. This is what you got to develop. I mean, this is the sideline, right? This is the beauty in the notes, folks. You ever hear that? The beauty in the notes. What didn't happen? That's why he went in with h4. He saw that the rook could just sack himself on h3. So he tries h4, but, again, it does nothing. Here you go. Right? This is how it turned out. Queen check. You block with the bishop, and there it is. And it's game over. Owen called it quits there. So even with pawn and move, he couldn't take Morphy in game one. You're going to have to stay tuned for the rest, folks. This is going to be interesting. Could Owen whip up something? I mean, he's got a little edge right from the get-go. Morphy's giving him pawn and move. You're going to have to stay tuned and see the other games. Again, Morphy taking black in every one, giving pawn and move to Owen. All right, stay tuned for the next game 2 of this match. It's going to be good.